Hello, this is Sadbir. The topic of our discussion in this video is the basic law of limit. So there are some basic law of the limit which we can use to calculate the limit of any function. The first law is the identity and constant law, and it says that the limit of the identity function y is equal to x is just c. If you are approaching x approaches to c, the limit of x will just basically plugging x is equal to c here give you c. For example, limit x approaches to 2 of x is 2, or the limit x approaches to 7 of x is 7. And also the limit of a constant, limit x approaches to no matter what the limit is, if the function is a 2, constant is will give you just 2 back. The next three laws are the sum law, the constant multiple, and product law. Sum law says that the limit of the addition is the addition of the limit. The constant multiple law is that you can pull out the constant from the limit. And the product law is that you can calculate the limit of the products as the product of the limit. These law only hold when the limit of these function exists. If the limit of one of these function does not exist, you cannot basically use the product law. Quotient law is very important, and it's only can be applied if the limit of the bottom function exists and it's non-zero. And it says that you can compute the limit by computing the limit of the top and bottom. But notice that the assumption matter. You cannot use this law if the bottom limit is not equal to 0. The power law say that you can calculate the limit of the power function by just calculating the limit of the base function and then taking the power. For example, if you calculate the limit as x approaches to 2 of x to power 2, you can calculate the limit as x approaches to 2 of x and then square it, which is a 2 square, which is basically 4. Let's practice these laws on some examples. Here I have 3 different examples where we will use this basic law of limit. In the first example, I see this is function is this sum or the subtraction of 3 different functions. So limit x approaches to 1, x cube plus 4x square minus 3 is nothing but is equal to the limit x approaches to 1 of x to the power 3 plus limit x approaches to 1 of 4x square minus limit x approaches to 1 of 3. This is the sum and subtraction law. Next one, we will use the power law. We say that the limit x approaches to 1 of the power function, the limit can go inside the power, and the constant can be pulled out from the limit. So this will be the limit x approaches to 1 of x, and then we also use the power rule. And the limit of the constant is the constant, so it's just a negative 3. So limit of x approaches to 1 of x, also this is the first property which tell us this is the limit is 1, so 1 to the power 3. The limit of this is also 1, so 1 to the power 2 minus 3. If I simplify this whole expression, I will get 2. Now let's work on the second problems where we have the limit x approaches to 2 of x to the power 4 plus x square minus 1 divided by x square plus 5. The first thing is, before we use the quotient law, we should check that the limit of the denominator is non-zero. So x approaches to 2x square plus 5. The limit of this function is a 9, so it is a non-zero number. It's not equal to 0, so we can use the quotient rule. The quotient rule will tell us the limit of the quotient is the quotient of the limit. So now we can use the addition law and power rule on the top and addition law and power rule in the bottom to calculate the limit. So on the top it will be x to the power 4 as x approaches to 2 minus plus limit x approaches to 2 of x, the square of that, minus limit x approaches to 2 of 1, and divide by limit x approaches to 2x, the square of this, plus limit x approaches to 2 of 5. If I plug in the top, I can get 1. This is a 2 limit, x approaches to 2 of x is a 2. So I get 2 to the power 4 plus 2 square minus 1 divide by 2 square 4 plus 5. So I get bottom is 9. Top I will get 16 plus 4 minus 1, which is a 19. My limit is 19 divided by 9. So let's see if we can use the basic law of the limit on problem number 3. The first thing is, if you would like to use the quotient rule of the uh, limit, you must check that the denominator limit is non-zero. But unfortunately, this limit is 0, so we would not be able to use the basic law of limit to calculate the limit of this function. So here you cannot use basically the basic law of limit because you have the 0 in the denominator. Here I have one quiz problem, so where you will calculate the limit of this quotient functions. Pause the video for 1 and 2 minutes, and once you have your answer, you can leave in the comment section above. So here a very interesting problem, which is also a challenging problem, where we will calculate the limit of this function to fx minus 3 dx when the information of the limit of fx dx are given in the table. So we will use the basic law of the limit because here is the first, this function is the subtraction of two functions. So we will use the sum and subtraction law and also the constant multiple. So by using these rules, I will have that the limit x approaches to -1 of fx. You can pull out the constant and you can just calculate the limit by using the subtraction law. The limit of this function is given in the table, and so does the limit of that function. So this limit is given 3 and this limit is given -2. So this is a 6 plus 6, which is a 12. One more problem here. You have a function x square root of gx divided by f of x square. Before you use the quotient rule, you must check that this limit in the denominator is not 0. Limit as x approaches to fx, the square of that, which will be basically as x approaches to 2, f of x is a -1. So this limit is 1, so which is not equal to 0. So we can use the quotient rule of the limit, which will be the limit x approaches to 2 of x square root of gx divided by limit fx square as x approaches to 2. The top is the product of two functions. I can use the product rule. So this will be the limit as x approaches to 2 x and and also use the power rule. I can move the limit inside the square root by using the power rule, because square root of is just x, g to the power 1/2, and then divide by limit fx and the square of the whole thing. Limit as x approaches to 2 of x is simply 2. Square root limit gx approaches to 2 is 4 and is divided by limit f approaches to 2 is a -1. So -1 the square of that. So that gives you 4. Limit of this function is 4. Here I have one quiz problem for you to practice. Once you have the answer, you can leave in the comment section above to compare with the other audience. Here I have one very challenging problem for us to practice, where we will calculate the limit of this function when the limit of the function at 1 is given. So limit x approaches to 1, fx minus 4 divided by 2 square root of fx. As you can see, if I plug limit x is equal to 1 in the top and bottom, I will get a 0 over 0 form. So which will tell me that there is basically x minus square root of 2. This is 0 in the denominator. There is some factor hidden, maybe x is equal to 4 in the top and bottom, which we need to be cancelled out. So since this is a square root of functions, I will, in order to simplify this function, I will multiply the conjugate in the bottom and also on the top. So the conjugate of this square root of function is 2 plus, because you change the negative sign to plus sign, and then same I multiply in the top. Let's simplify the top and bottom. So there is no need to be simplify the top, but definitely we can simplify the bottom, or we can factor the bottom. It's gonna be, since this number multiplied is conjugate, so it's gonna be just the square of the first number, the square of the second number is gonna give you f of x. One more step, limit x approaches to 1. I can pull out the negative sign from here, and this is gonna be a 4 minus f of x. This was the factor which was producing the 0 in the top and 0 in the bottom. So we have that factor cancel out. So we left with the limit x approaches to 1 of minus 2 plus square root of fx and divided by just simply 1. So if I plug the limit now, the limit is 4 as x approaches to 1. So you get the total answer is a negative 4. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video, subscribe my channel and hit the bell button so you can get the next video. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.